So, how's your year going? It's been a tough 2020, hasn't it? The world as we know it has changed forever, and it seems like every time you turn on the news, it's a lot more of the bad and much less of the good. Global pandemics, buffoons in charge of political offices, Mojo Rawley still yet to become WWE champion, tragedies one and all. With things being as bad as they seem right now, we could all use something to feel better, couldn't we? One thing that we're able to use for this is wrestling. As pure a form of escapist entertainment as there is, wrestling can, at its best, provide us with some amazing feel-good moments that live long in the memory. Thrilling underdog stories, grand returns, tear-inducing reunions, and spine-tingling title wins are just some of the things that make us glad to be wrestling fans, and are moments that, in times like these, we can always reminisce about or go back and watch when we're in need of a morale boost. So, in that spirit, I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are the 10 most feel-good WWE moments ever. And remember, things will get better. Join us. Number 10, Kofi Kingston wins the WWE title at WrestleMania 35. Kofi Kingston was well decorated by the time he got to face Daniel Bryan in a WWE title match at WrestleMania 35. A slew of tag team title reigns as well as spells as Intercontinental and US champ meant that you couldn't exactly accuse Kofi of not being a success. However, he had never won the big one, and as he eased into a comfortable role in the New Day, some began to suspect that he never would. When Mustafa Ali picked up an injury and was forced to withdraw from the WWE title elimination chamber match, Kofi took his place, just making up numbers, right? Wrong. Kingston almost won the thing, only just succumbing to Bryan despite a Herculean effort. Importantly, the crowd were with Kofi the whole way and wanted him to go the distance. WWE took note and put him in a storyline with the champ, stacking the odds against him for the entire road to Mania. Though Kofi was in a WWE title match at WrestleMania and had a lot of momentum and audience support, you could never count out the company's capacity to troll their fanbase, and a win was by no means assured. Which made it all the more satisfying when Kofi got the pin following Trouble in Paradise. It was a great moment for wrestling fans and a great moment for a consummate performer who had long deserved the opportunity. Number 9, British Bulldog wins the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam 92. SummerSlam 1992 was the first major WWE pay-per-view to take place overseas, and wouldn't you know it, it took place in my own backyard. Not literally, of course. It took place in Wembley Stadium in front of 80,000 people, and I grew up on the Isle of Wight, so it was about a 3.5-hour drive away. I was too young, my dad took my brother. I'm not bitter, I promise.
I'm gonna go build my own
SummerSlam
with blackjack and hookers.
And hey, some Americans think that Newcastle is a small mining town just outside of our nation's capital. So, hell, SummerSlam 1992 took place in my own backyard. And what a show it was. The full-on razzmatazz of WWE coming to Blighty for a star-studded card featuring the Legion of Doom, Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bret Hart, The Undertaker, and a homecoming for our greatest export, the British Bulldog, Davey Boy Smith. Smith was challenging the Hitman for the Intercontinental title in the main event, and to say that his entrance generated one of the biggest pops of all time is like saying water is wet or handlebar moustaches are the coolest moustaches. A beautiful back and forth match followed, with Bret and Bulldog taking each other to the absolute limit in what has since been cited as one of the best WWE matches ever. Davey Boy just about snatched the win by countering a sunset flip, blowing the non-existent roof off the place before celebrating with his wife and Bret's sister Diana. Now, everyone rise for God Save the Queen. God save us. Number 8, legends return to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's not uncommon for some of WWE's biggest stars to have a falling out with Vince McMahon and then find themselves on the outs for an extended period of time. Similarly, it's not uncommon for a performer's personal problems to cancel them out of any plans that the CEO might have of using them. When this happens, it is unfortunate, but thankfully, many times these stories have happier endings and often culminate in a superstar returning to take their rightful place in the WWE Hall of Fame. So while this entry is sort of cheating since it's not strictly one moment, why don't you just stay away from the comments section and enjoy the pleasant memories, eh? Because who didn't feel better watching Bret Hart come back after 6 tragedy-filled years? Or the Ultimate Warrior accepting the honor after almost 20 years on the outs? Or what about Bruno Sammartino, one of the greatest ever, headlining the 2016 class after a quarter of a century as persona non grata? Then there's the likes of Jake Roberts and Scott Hall, 2 men who had been written off countless times, cleaning themselves up and enjoying their moments in the spotlight. We all love a a good redemption story, and these cases tick that box and help us all feel better as wrestling fans. Number 7, Edge returns at the 2020 Royal Rumble. When Edge had major reconstructive neck surgery in 2003, he knew that he was going to be wrestling on borrowed time from then on. That he was able to come back and accomplish everything he was able to, multiple world titles, first ever Money in the Bank, and a Royal Rumble winner before retiring in 2011 is incredible in itself. But the Rated R superstar didn't want to hang up the trench coat 1 week after WrestleMania 27. He was forced to. He had pushed his broken body as far as it would go, and the decision was taken out of his hands. Though he stepped away as the reigning World Heavyweight Champion and with a stellar run behind him, it was a bitter pill to swallow for the performer and for his fans. After saying his teary goodbyes, Edge settled into his post-wrestling life, making the odd appearance here and there, but mainly focusing on his burgeoning acting career. But there was always that itch, and as legends of the past came back for one more match or series of matches, fans hoped, fans clamored for a return of the Ultimate Opportunist. And it finally happened when Edge shocked the world by returning as a surprise entrant in the 2020 Royal Rumble. The look on his face said it all, as the seemingly impossible was accomplished before a stadium full of people who were genuinely chuffed to see him. Number 6, Rey Mysterio wins the 2006 Royal Rumble. Rey Mysterio spent most of 2005 either teaming with or facing off against his longtime friend and rival Eddie Guerrero. The Biggest Little Man and Latino Heat were pretty much inseparable throughout the year, and so it made sense for Rey to continue carrying the torch after Eddie's untimely passing on November 13th. I know this is supposed to be a list of feel-good moments, and I just mentioned one of the saddest, but there'll be some nicer Eddie memories later, and this is an important part of Rey's journey. Stick with me. The Masked Man began to keep Guerrero's spirit alive and vowed to win the 2006 Royal Rumble in his memory. Mysterio was the obvious sentimental favourite going into the Rumble, but a certain genetic jackhammer wasn't convinced, and his victory was far from a foregone conclusion. With heavy hitters like Randy Orton and Triple H in the mix, the odds of Rey coming out on top weren't great. However, powered by the spirit of his late amigo, Mysterio managed to pull off the unthinkable, lasting over 1 hour before finally eliminating both the Legend Killer and the Game to win. The Biggest Little Man added another feel-good moment when he won the World Heavyweight title 2 months later at WrestleMania 22. Number 5, Mick Foley wins the WWE title in 1999. Another masked underdog triumphing against the odds now, this time Mick Foley under his Mankind persona winning the WWE title for the very first time. Foley had burst onto the scene in 1996 as a basement-dwelling psychopath, but by the time he squared off with The Rock on the January 4th, 1999 episode of Monday Night Raw, he was a beloved loser thanks to his willingness to sacrifice his body and with a little help from a sock. There's nothing quite like the combination of off-the-wall silliness and getting thrown off of something really bloody massive to endear someone to wrestling fans, is there? Despite the surge in Mankind's popularity, a WWE title win seemed like a long shot. This was the height of the Attitude Era, and The Rock, as well as being the corporate champion on screen, was also the actual perfect representative for the company at the time. The two men went at it in front of a pulsating crowd, and though the match wasn't a technical classic or anything, it was an incredible spectacle, with interference from DX and Corporation members and a pretty popular run-in from one Stone Cold Steve Austin. It was thanks to the Texas Rattlesnake and a steel chair that Foley was able to pin the Great One and win the WWE title for the first time in one of the most emotional moments in Raw history. Number 4, Eddie Guerrero wins the WWE title at No Way Out 2004. In November of 2001, Eddie Guerrero hit rock bottom when he was fired by WWE after getting a DUI. WWE had already paid to put Eddie through rehab, and this was the last straw. Latino Heat had to start over, taking to the independent circuit to rebuild his reputation in the hope that one day he would be welcomed back into the fold. After cleaning himself up and getting into the best shape of his life, WWE gave him another chance and signed him to a new contract. Eddie continued to work hard to maintain his sobriety and move on up the card, striking a chord with fans thanks to his lying, cheating, and stealing ways. Come early 2004, the undersized by WWE standards Guerrero was the most popular act on the roster and looking at a WWE title match with Brock Lesnar. In the build-up to their match at No Way Out, WWE incorporated Eddie's real-life struggles with his addictions and emphasized the truly David versus Goliath nature of the contest. Nobody thought that Eddie had a hope of winning, but where David had a slingshot, Eddie had a DDT onto a title belt, followed by a frog splash for one of the biggest upsets in wrestling history. Jubilant scenes followed as you could sense that fans cared not just about the character but the man himself, and they were so happy for him and all that he had accomplished in the face of adversity. Number 3, Daniel Bryan wins the WWE title at WrestleMania 30. There have been many feel-good Mania main events before it, but it would take some doing to match, let alone better, the scenes as WrestleMania 30 went off the air. Daniel Bryan became extremely popular in spite of WWE's booking and presentation of him, winning the hearts and minds of fans the world over due to his antics with Kane in Team Hell No, his ability to battle back against authority, or the authority in this case, and a simple 3-letter word that saw him become the most over act in the company. WWE had planned to have Batista and Randy Orton square off in a singles match for the WWE title, but fans rejected that proposal and all but forced Bryan into the picture. The American Dragon first had to get past Triple H in the show's opener and did so by winning a long and grueling match, the post-match of which saw Bryan be attacked by the Cerebral Assassin, giving him an injury heading into the triple threat later in the night. Injury or not, Bryan had everyone in the Superdome behind him and they cheered him on as he overcame his 2 larger opponents, making the Animal tap out to become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. You couldn't help but feel happy for the guy then, or come to think of it, when he announced his return to wrestling in 2018. Can we add another one to the list? Is it too late? Number 2, Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth reunite at WrestleMania 7. Macho Man Randy Savage and Miss Elizabeth were one of the first true couples in wrestling. While the male performer with the beautiful female valet became commonplace in later years, it was something of a novelty in the 80s and early 90s, and there were no 2 better performers than Liz and Randy to pull it off. The real-life husband and wife duo enjoyed much success until the man who ruins everything, Hulk Hogan, did what he did best and, well, ruined everything. Okay, maybe Savage's paranoia and irrationality played a part, but it's a lot easier and better for the soul to put it all on Thunderlips. Due to the Hogan situation, Savage and Elizabeth split, with Macho Man joining up with Sensational Sherry, and Liz aligning herself with Dusty Rhodes and Sapphire for a feud. Once that dispute was over, Miss Elizabeth disappeared from TV for the best part of a year, next showing up in the front row at WrestleMania 7, where her ex was facing off with the Ultimate Warrior in a retirement match. Savage lost the match and was taking a kicking from Sherry after the fact when Liz hopped the barricade and threw her out of the ring before reuniting with her hubby. Lovely. Number 1, Roman Reigns is in remission. Title triumphs mean a lot for the men and women who work their whole lives to accomplish them, but the fantasy world of sports entertainment rightfully takes a back seat when real life, especially a performer's health, is concerned. Roman Reigns, a decisive figure at the best of times, announced on the October 22nd, 2018 episode of Raw that he was battling leukemia. Talking to the world as Joe Anawahi, WWE's tireless workhorse relinquished the Universal title and informed the WWE Universe that he would be taking a break, but that he would be back. It was an amazing, heartfelt moment, and the reality of the news was not lost on anyone. Reigns had a serious fight ahead of him, and everyone, whether you liked him as a wrestler or not, was pulling for him. Which made it all the sweeter when the big dog gave another speech on the February 25th, 2019 episode of Raw and told the world that he was in remission. And hold on a second, is someone chopping onions in here? Those 3 words were enough to raise the hair on the back of your neck, and you couldn't help but be thrilled and relieved that Roman was recovering. It was a moment worth 10 WrestleMania main events.